The historical mindful movement will share historical information that happened on the same date and month from year to year. This is so that the history we learn can make us appreciate the past and trigger us to do better in the future. Historical mindful movement begs not to click the like and subscribe buttons on this channel. In this edition, we will discuss the history that occurred on April 3rd from year to year. On April 3, 1827, Ernst Florens Friedrich Chladni died at the age of 70. He is a musician and physicist who is known as the father of acoustics as well as the father of meteoritics. Chladni is said to be the father of acoustics for his acoustic studies of vibrating plates, which led to the discovery of Chladni's law is a simple algebra for estimating the frequency of the modal oscillations free of plates and other objects. When resonating, the cymbal plate is divided into regions that vibrate in opposite directions. The vibrations are bounded by a line where no vibration occurs. The patterns formed by these lines are now called Chladni figures. Another famous contribution of Chladni was inventing the Chladni technique, is a technique that shows various modes of vibration on a rigid surface. Chladni's technique, first published in 1787 in his book Inventions in Theory of Sound. This technique is done by bending a metal plate until it reaches a resonant shape, which is then covered with a thin layer of sand on the surface. This is the first technique in visualizing sound. When subjected to vibrations, the sand moves and is concentrated along nodal lines where the surface does not vibrate. The patterns formed by these lines are now called Chladni's figures. Chladni's figures formed on musical instruments, depending on the design and construction of the acoustic musical instrument itself. Variations of this technique are still commonly used in the design and construction of acoustic instruments, such as the violin, guitar and cello. In 1791, Chladni invented a musical instrument called the euphon, which consisted of glass rods of different tones. Chladni's euphon is the direct ancestor of the modern musical instrument, known today as the crystal bashket. Crystal bashket is a contemporary musical instrument, developed in 1952 by the Bashket brothers, namely Bernard Bashket and François Bashket. This musical instrument is made of 56 chromatically placed glass rods with a sound range ranging from 3.5 to 6 octaves. To play it, the musician rubs the stem with wet fingertips. Outside of musical instruments, Chladni is referred to as the father of meteoritics for doing pioneering work on the meteorite study of the origin of iron that he published in 1794. In the book, he proposed that meteorites came from outer space. The statement was considered controversial because at that time, the meteorite was thought to have originated from a volcano. In his honor, one of the minerals was named after him. On April 3, 1882, Jesse Woodson James died at the age of 34. He is a criminal under the leadership of the James Younger gang, who is notorious for various bank and train robberies. Jesse James is shot in the head by Robert Newton Ford, a new member of the gang who betrayed him in exchange for a bounty on James's head and promises of amnesty for his previous crimes. On April 3, 1885, Gottlieb Wilhelm Daimler was granted a German patent for the design of a water-cooled one-cylinder engine. The Daimler invention was the breakthrough that other engine makers had been waiting for. Previously, nothing had been able to efficiently solve the problems generated by the tremendous heat generated by the internal combustion engine itself. In Daimler's engines, cold water circulates around the engine block, preventing the engine from overheating. Today's machines still use the basic idea of Gottlieb Wilhelm Daimler. On April 3, 1922, Joseph Vissarionovich Stalin became the first General Secretary of the Communist Party of the USSR. He held the post to command the Communist Party and the entire Soviet Union more broadly. General Secretary of the Communist Party of the USSR is a post of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, which in the late 1920s became the most powerful post of the various Central Committee secretaries. The de facto holder of this office is the leader of the Soviet Union. On April 3, 1930, Richard Paul Max Fleischer died at the age of 68. He is a painter who is known as an expert in botanical science. As an expert in botanical science, he is also remembered for his work using Javanese moss for coloring his paintings. He has also explored the technique of making batik using dyes from vegetables. On April 3, 1933, the first flight expedition to Mount Everest was successfully carried out by Sir Douglas Hamilton and David McIntyre. It marked the first successful flight over the highest mountain in the world. The idea for a flight expedition over Mount Everest was proposed in 1918 by British mountaineer, physiologist Alexander Mitchell Kellas in his journal entitled The Possibility of Aerial Reconnaissance in the Himalaya. Because this effort required a lot of money, Lord Clydesdale asked Lady Houston to fund the expedition in September 1932. In the end, Lady Houston agreed to fund the expedition because Lady Houston, who was very nationalist, was pleased with Lord Clydesdale's idea that the aerial conquest of Everest would strengthen British rule in India. The aircraft used were Westland PV-6 and Westland PV-3. Both aircraft were modified with a closed observer position, but kept the pilot cockpits open. The aircraft is also equipped with an oxygen system, and heated flying suits. The camera used is the Williamson Automatic Eagle III, which takes photos of the surface at certain intervals as the airplane flies over the survey site to obtain an accurate photographic mosaic and map. On that first expedition, they could not get a clear photo because of the dust. They made another attempt on April 19, 1933. Photos of the expedition were published in 1951. Published photographs of the expedition helped Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay conquer the summit of Mount Everest for the first time. On April 3, 1941, Tachiyama Mineemon died at the age of 63. He is a sumo wrestler known as the 22nd Yokozuna. Yokozuna is the highest rank in the sport of sumo. Tachiyama Mineemon is well known for his extreme strength and skills. He won 99 of the 100 games from 1909 to 1916 and also won 11 top division tournament championships. On April 3, 1950, Carter Godwin Woodson died at the age of 74. He is a historian, writer and journalist who is known as the father of Black history. The nickname is credited to him because he founded the Journal of Negro History in 1916, a quarterly academic journal, covering African American life and history. On April 3, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his most memorable final speech before being assassinated the following day. On April 3, 1973, Martin Cooper of Motorola Corporation made the first cell phone call to Joel Engel of Bell Labs using a prototype model called the Dynadac. DynaDAC stands for Dynamic Adaptive Total Area Coverage. The DynaDAC prototype built between 1973 and 1983 weighed 790 grams, and was 25 centimeters high. For a full charge, it takes approximately 10 hours with a talk time of 30 minutes. In 1984, DynaDAC 8000X is the first commercial model, sold for a very high price, $3,995 which is the equivalent of $9,831 in 2019. With a minimum wage of $3.35 per hour in 1984, people in the United States who wanted to have it took 1,192 hours of work, or about nearly 20 months of work, just for a cell phone. On April 3, 1975, Robert James Fischer, or better known as Bobby Fischer, refused to compete in chess against Anatoly Yevgenyevich Karpov. That earned Karpov the title of world chess champion by default. Fischer refused to defend his title when an agreement with the international chess governing body on 2 of the 3 conditions he put forward for the match was not reached. On April 3, 1976, David Mathias Dennison died at the age of 75. He is a physicist known for his contributions to quantum mechanics, spectroscopy, and the physics of molecular structures. One of his most famous contributions was when he succeeded in breaking out the main heat of hydrogen from electron spinning in 1927. He postulated that proton spins do not transition frequently during measurement. On April 3, 1981, Juan Terry Trippe died at the age of 81. He is a businessman known as the pioneer of United States commercial aviation by founding Pan American World Airways, which is one of the iconic airlines of the 20th century. Pan American World Airways was instrumental in various revolutionary advances in airline history, such as development and production of the Boeing 314 Clipper, which opened the trans-Pacific airline journey. Boeing Stratoliner as a pioneer in cabin pressure aircraft. The Boeing 747, which introduced the jumbo jet era. For his various contributions, Juan Terry Trippe was awarded Daniel Guggenheim Medal in 1941, Wright Brothers Memorial Trophy in 1966, posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1985. On April 3, 1981, the Osborne 1 was released by Osborne Computer Corporation at the West Coast Computer Fair in San Francisco. The Osborne 1 is the first commercially successful portable microcomputer for $1,795. The Osborne 1 weighs 10.7 kilograms and is powered by a power outlet because it does not have an onboard battery. Even so, this computer is still classified as a portable device because it can be carried by hand when packed. On April 3, 2007, France's TGV train officially set a new world record for conventional trains with a speed of 574.8 km per hour in a test project for the TGV variant of the V150 type. However, the TGV is not the first high-speed train, because the Japanese Shinkansen trains with a maximum speed of 300 km per hour, connecting Tokyo and Osaka have opened, almost 43 years earlier than the TGV, namely on October 1, 1964. On April 3, 2007, Cliff Muntu died at the age of 19. He is a student level 2 at the Institute for Domestic Administration, which is a member of the contingent of North Sulawesi Province. Cliff Muntu's death became the culmination of criticism on the behavior of senior students towards junior students who were usually stated as part of the formation of discipline among candidates for Indonesian domestic government officials. The death of Cliff Muntu has also become the point of departure for many parties to review the rating system that has been carried out in various educational institutions in Indonesia, even since junior high and high school. On April 3, 2008, Kyamon Yuthong died at the age of 81 years. It is a writer and journalist known as the founder of the Kiman newspaper in 1957. Kiman has quickly become the most popular newspaper in Burma. In 2000, he was named one of the 50 World Press Freedom Heroes by the International Press Institute. On April 3, 2010, Apple Inc. released the first-generation iPad, the tablet computer, which is the first device in the iPad tablet computer lineup. The presence of the iPad is marked as a competitor to laptops and netbooks. Although the advantages of the first-generation iPad came from the 9.7-inch touchscreen and 10 hours of service life, the closed nature of the operating system, and the lack of support for the Adobe Flash multimedia format has been criticized by various parties. However, 300,000 iPods were sold on the first day, and broke through 3 million units during the first 80 days. This was one of the reasons Time magazine chose it as one of the 50 best inventions of 2010. On April 3, 2015, Sabar Subagio alias Deng Koro died at the age of 52. He is one of the core members of the East Indonesia Mujahidin terrorist group led by Santoso, which operates in central Sulawesi. He, known as Deng Koro, died in a shootout with the police Special Detachment 88 anti-terror in the Sakina Jaya Mountains, Panji village, North Pauiji district, Pauiji Mautong Regency. The Indonesian police called Deng Koro the most dangerous terrorist besides Santoso because of his experience and military background, before being dishonorably discharged by the Indonesian Army in 1992, when he was second corporal. Deng Koro became involved with acts of terrorism in 2000 and joined Santoso in 2012 as field commander of the East Indonesia Mujahidin. On April 3, 2015, Ampak Nori died at the age of 84 years. He is a comedian, Indonesian actor and Betawi artist. Nori is one of the icons of Betawi comedy. He is also the founder of the Lenong Siner Nore group. When she was a child, she dreamed of becoming a nurse, but ran aground because her parents wanted her to keep Betawi culture alive. Nori is the son of Baba Kenan, a fiddle and drum player who later formed the Betawi mask group. On April 3, 2016, Cesare Maldini died at the age of 84. He is a footballer and manager who is the father of Paolo Maldini. They are both legendary players from AC Milan Football Club. Cesare Maldini succeeded as coach of the Italy U21 national team by winning the European Under-21 Championship with a record 3 times in a row. He is also highly respected for his leadership and consistency both on and off the pitch. Throughout his career, he only received 5 yellow cards and 1 red card. Cesare Maldini was a pioneer of the Maldini dynasty at AC Milan. Currently, the Maldini generation at AC Milan has reached the 3rd generation. He is Daniel Maldini, the son of Paolo Maldini, who is also the grandson of Cesare Maldini. On April 3, 2018, there was a shooting incident at YouTube's headquarters in San Bruno, California, USA. The shooter was a woman named Nasim Najafi Agdam from San Diego. He was found dead by shooting himself. The shooting motive was carried out by Agdam, who is an animal rights activist as well as a YouTuber, allegedly because of his annoyance with YouTube. He accused YouTube of deliberately censoring and revoking the monetization of his videos on a discriminatory basis, so that Agdam could not get money from the various videos he uploaded to YouTube. One of the screenshots found on his website shows his complaint that he only made 10 US cents of the video views of over 300,000. Agdam also accused YouTube on his personal web page that there is no opportunity for revenue growth on YouTube unless they want it. Agdam's accusation is an extreme version of the claim, widely circulating among YouTubers at that time, namely that YouTube was accused of filtering videos so that they were difficult for visitors to find and deliberately pulled advertisements on videos that did not violate applicable regulations.